Well, hello everyone. You have right here talking about whenever it comes to planning, right? And a lot of times you always want to know too is to where that whenever you do have any sorts of talks and conversations about anybody about planning, what does it usually mean when we do plan something? Yeah, it's about thinking ahead of time, right? But a lot of times you always want to know too is to where if it's supposed to be anything such as maybe a promise or something like that, or like everybody might say, is it's all about, getting some ideas in mind about the things that you would like to do in the near future. And that's usually what it means, by the way, that every time you do think about that you're always want to know too, yeah, thinking ahead of time, thinking into the future. And every time you do think about that, then you always want to know too, is to where that, yeah, that maybe not exactly everything that you talked about exactly is what happened. Like if you plan a party or an event or maybe any sort of occasion like that, but like everybody might say that that a number of times that you were to plan something though, that it may be encouraged as to where to, yeah, maybe at about everything that you were expecting for, and maybe 102 is to where to, yeah, that if there's any sort of promise agreement about that, and even if it's related to insurance, or maybe if it is related to like maybe a get together party or somewhere something like that. But still, every time I think about this, I'm thinking too is toward, yeah, when we do speak about graphic design right here, that this right here, that in case if anybody's wondering, to where that I have right here is I didn't really give this a title, to where that cheek to cheek or something like that, the love Valentines or something like that. But I have right here of talking about with this picture right here of two couples staring at each other right here. And you see right here, you got right here's nose to nose and eye to eye right here. And I'm using this as an example right here of talking about, like, maybe if it's for a Valentine or something like that. But what if we were to use this design right here as an example of, like, maybe a fulfillment of a promise or something like that, or maybe a fulfillment to planning right here. And let's just say that everybody might even think too that maybe it has nothing to do with love or anything like that. But let's just say that any graphic designer would maybe even say too that a lot of it has to do with about visualizing. What do you see in the next few weeks ahead? What do you see in the near future? And what you see right here is actually, if we can see this right here, that you have two people staring at each other, right? But you also see right here is a facial expression right here. And a lot of times, whenever you do think about that, then you want to know too is toward it a lot of things that maybe that you can see that maybe other people maybe can't see or something like that. But still, that you have right here with the eyebrow kind of raising up, and then the one with the lower down angle and all that. So it's like everybody would want to know too that if you were to actually look at that very carefully right there, and your 102 is toward it, yeah, well, you didn't really think about it during the time. And a lot of times you always want to know too is toward it, whenever you do make plans, by the way, that you always want to know too is toward it, yeah, you didn't even think about it during the time. And most of the time that's usually the first impression we all think about is that if you're going to be making plans for any reason at all, that what exactly does that mean to make plans and arrangements? And like everybody might say that, well, okay, yeah, it's supposed to be an abbreviation right here. If you put a space between the L and the A and then the N or something like that, it's supposed to be an abbreviation for something, and you can't figure it out what it is. But yeah, plans right here. The P is for something like position, luck, at your service or something like that, at your service or something like that. But in case if we're all 102 is to where yeah, that I have dreams about this, by the way. I even had dreams about the fact about about reality, about yeah, you dream about having conversations with somebody, even if it's on a text messaging or whichever it is, and your 102 is toward it that yeah, that what's the first impression whenever you think about that? If we're thinking about whenever we think about a Valentine's Day event or something like, or a party, in case of anybody's want to know too, that yeah, it's usually between it's usually between winter and in the spring is whenever you are waiting to receive party invitations from somebody. And a lot of times it's like whenever you do think about that, by the way, that you're warned toward it. Yeah, party invitations, party events, and that's whenever you think about it as toward it. Yeah, it's an event that is waiting to happen or something like that. So you think about this, yeah, ahead, thinking ahead in the future. Thinking ahead of time in the near future. So every time you do think about that, then your 102 is toward it. Really, how confident do you think anybody would be whenever it comes to making plans, making reservations? And everybody would say is just toward it. Well, really, the first question maybe is going to be about is toward it. Yeah, that you really need to know what you're doing before you go ahead and start planning and making arrangements about what exactly, how things are going to be arranged, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen first, and maybe what's soon to come. And that is why it seems that way toward it. Every time you do think about that and you're warned toward it, hey, that, do we really even know what is about to happen and what is soon to come? And so that's why it seems that way that, everybody might say that, yeah, do you think it's better to go ahead and just write it down and just to kind of get your thoughts and ideas on paper? Like everybody might even want to know too that if you were to go ahead and write down your ideas and everybody might say that yeah, it's supposed to be for the future, and you would maybe like to write on a note here is toward I would like. I would like to see. And so that's why, in case if anybody's wondering, to where that if you were to write a note, saying is this toward the things that you would like to see, planning ahead of time. And I mean, I can go ahead and use the second page right down here. I might, yeah, if you want to go ahead and select that and maybe duplicate that, and then go ahead and yeah, put that down here on the second page right here. But still, everybody will want to know too that yeah, put that on a separate page right here. But when we do talk about understanding about what people are thinking about right here, and you begin to wonder toward it that yeah, what exactly if you were to have a plan, an idea in mind, by the way, do you think on average that it's best to go ahead and write down your thoughts and opinions down on paper? And like everybody may want to know too that that yeah, that by the way that I don't really have very good handwriting, so maybe somebody's going to maybe say that their thoughts and ideas, their reasons why that they don't want to write it down on paper is because of the fact that they don't like their handwriting or something like that. But still, but when we do talk about the basic idea about is this toward it, yeah, that whenever it comes to writing down our thoughts and ideas right here, and you're warned toward it. See if I can go ahead and bring this over. But all right, there we are. Yeah, plans. Plans are waiting to happen right here, along with writing down your thoughts and this is what I would like to see right here whenever the party invitation does come right here. And so a lot of times it's like, yeah, I would like to see this and I would like to see that, and I would like to see a get together or something like that. I would like to see a get together, and So really, how many of us would maybe even say that how do you even know if most of your planning is going to be satisfying? And in case if we're one or two, that especially like on a greeting card, and maybe that's another reason why that maybe everybody would maybe like to say is toward yeah, if you want to make plans for any reason at all, then maybe you would like to go ahead and maybe write that down on a sticky note or something like that, just something that maybe within less than maybe two or maybe three sentences long right here talking about, that you would like to, this is the things that you would like to see happening in the near future right here. And so that's why it seems that way, that, every time you do think about that, you go ahead and make plans, reservations for something, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, it's a waiting to happen right here. And so every time you think about that, and you're 102 is toward it, yeah, that's kind of like a request right there, and your 102 is toward it. How do you handle that whenever plans maybe don't work out as well as you're hoping, for them to work out? And so that's why it seems that way to where that you think is as toward, yeah, what exactly does that usually mean whenever you do make plans, and why do you even make plans? If over the fact that most of the time, maybe nearly 20% of the time, that a lot of those plans don't work out as well as you're hoping to expect them to work out. And that's why it seems that way to where that everybody would say is this toward it. That's why that maybe that everybody would say is this toward it. Whenever you do write down the details to where maybe somebody will be able to read it at some point later on, and that's whenever you're like, yeah, well, it's all about hope for the best, right? But still, that whenever you do write down the details, by the way, it seems that way to where you have a little bit more time to you write down your what's on your mind, and I guess everybody else would say is toward yeah. Anybody who's going to maybe say that you may not have the greatest handwriting, or like everybody might say that if you think that whenever you do write down any ideas, by the way, that it's possible that the first thing that you're thinking about is that who else that could be reading this? Who could be reading this here? And so that's why it seems that way, that whenever you do think about that, and you're wanting to where that yeah, who do you think that could be reading this later on? And that's why it kind of makes you nervous, is while you're writing, that you're writing down ideas about the things that you're hoping that you'll be able to see in the near future. But still, it's like whenever you do think about that, it's all about planning, right? And so in case of anybody's wondering to where that you look at that planning right there, and people might say is this to where that yeah, whenever you do make plans, that you can go and write down the details, maybe like maybe come up with maybe a list of maybe 3 different ideas of the things that you would like to do in the near future. And let's just say if one of those plans is maybe going to be is this toward yeah, going shopping one morning and come back here and fixing lunch or something like that, or yeah, something like meeting at the movies or something like that, and then going to the mall that afternoon or something like that. So that's why it seems that way, that every time you do think about that people may want to know too, that do you think that it's best to go ahead and write down the details before, like, yeah. So that's why it seems that way, that whenever you do think about that, and people want to know too, that why do you even make plans knowing that maybe some of those plans are not going to be met as well as what you're hoping, expect them to, right? And so that is why it seems that way, that whenever you do think about that, and you're warned to where that hey, that whenever you do speak about plans, though, and people want to know too, is to where that yeah, that the first thing that you're going to be thinking about is yeah, meeting somebody at the mall, or maybe at the food court or somewhere like that, meeting somebody somewhere, and or maybe talking to them or something. And so that's why it seems that way, that you think about it, is that yeah, it's a waiting to happen right here. And do you think that maybe like when we do speak about maybe insurance, or maybe vacation planning or anything like that, and that is why it seems that way. That be quite honest with you, everybody. That whenever you have dreams, by the way, you dream about having conversations with somebody, and a lot of times I begin to want to know too that it makes you really nervous knowing about the fact about that whenever you think about that. Yeah, conversations that you recall happening, but half the time it's like, you want to ask the question toward it, hey, that you even dream about having conversations with somebody, and even though if they never happen, but do you really consider that to be normal then compared to, you go ahead and get some ideas down on paper or maybe anything that you're working on, right? You're writing down a greeting card on a birthday invitation or something like that, and you're thinking as toward any sorts of event. It's like it's waiting to happen right here, and so it seems like that whenever you do ask that question right there, and you're 102 is toward it, really, I guess, don't really expect everybody to know what you're talking about whenever you talk about, it's a waiting to happen right here, and maybe not everybody's really going to know what you're talking about until, so that's why it seems that way, that whenever you do think about that and you're warned toward it, not everybody's going to know what you're talking about right away, and so that's why it seems that way, that maybe in case if anybody's wondering toward it, that if you do, it's a waiting to happen right here, but everybody might even say that, yeah, it's a waiting to happen, it's waiting, explain. So if you ever come into that situation to where if anybody's wanting to know the details about something, and let's just say if it's something waiting to happen or if it hasn't happened yet or anything like that, and that's why it seems that way, that maybe it would be best to go, like everybody would say, is as to where that maybe in maybe four paragraphs or 4 sentences or something like that, maybe 5 sentences, a full letter worth about explaining about what you're talking about, and maybe what's been going on, and what's been going on all week long or maybe all month long or something like that. But every time you do think about that, and you're always 102, is to where they really, why make plans and reservations maybe whenever everything may not work out as well as you're hoping for them to work out? And maybe that is why everybody would say is to where I would like to actually produce a greeting card, like a card with an invitation on it. And in case if anybody's 102, that maybe that's another reason why a greeting invitation would be important for that reason, just because of the fact that if everything didn't turn out as well as planned, then maybe you would maybe think as toward a hope for the best, as toward this is what I would like to see right here. You would maybe write down right here on the bottom, right here, towards something that you would like to see, and then a party invitation for who's invited, and as well as the details for the plans right here. So everybody might say that, it's really hard to fit a lot on a greeting card, by the way, and so that's why it seems that way, to where that, it would maybe make more sense to where that you would use just one, a backdrop right here, to where it would show a little image right here, to where that this is a design that I came up with right here, and there would be like maybe 1 or 2 sentence paragraph explaining about the time of day of this planning, and also who's invited, and so like a greeting card like that, and so that's why it seems that way, that every time you do think about that, and you're always 102, is to where that do we even know what that means too much of the time? In case if we're all 102, that don't make promises that you can't keep. You hear that a lot of times, but have we really heard of the fact about how well is it explained? And so whenever you do think about that, by the way, that you begin to wonder that how well is it really explained? And so you want to know too that whenever you think about anything that you're going to be working on, for sure, right? But anything that you're going to be working on, but still that whenever you do think about that, and you're warned toward it, do things really have to be explained very clearly, to the point to where that I had no idea what you're talking about until the people actually read the details, right? And that is why it seems that way. That I don't really know what you're talking about until you ask somebody to explain what you mean by that, and maybe that's another reason why that everybody would say is to where that go ahead and write, put a greeting card along with with a thank you letter. I'm like, yeah, you have the reservations of it, but still, do you think that maybe it would be advised to go ahead and include a letter, before the event and after the event, to go ahead and include a letter? Yeah, include a letter. Include a letter. Including a letter, explaining the details about what's been going on, and so that's why it seems that way. That every time you do think about that you want to know too that really who would spend 2 hours working out the details about that. And in case of anybody's want to know too that if everything worked out as well as originally planned, or that there were some things that that did not work out as well, but still, it's like thanks for trying, something like that. But still, but in a lot of ways that I just really think in a lot of ways too that do you think that maybe it's advised to go ahead and maybe give somebody some ideas about possibly what could possibly happen in case of this goes wrong, what could possibly happen in case of that goes wrong, and that's why it seems that way that you go ahead and write down some ideas and some plans about at least one thing that you're hoping to be able to see, and maybe something that you would like to see before and then just to explain the details, right? And so that's why it seems that way that each time you do think about that, and you want to know too, is that it makes a little bit more sense now, just knowing about how well it was planned, than compared to whenever things don't work out as well as you're hoping for them to. But still, it's all about waiting to happen, right? And that is why it seems that way, that you're thinking ahead of time in the future. And so whenever you do think about that you're thinking is toward it, that you are thinking ahead of time, and everybody may want to know too is toward it, do you think that maybe everybody would understand a little bit more of what you're talking about, maybe after the event, after that occasion, and maybe after this planning happened? And so that's why it seems that way that you go ahead and paint a picture right here of something like this right here, to where before this happens right here, and does that give you an idea of what you're thinking about? And I know everybody would probably say is as to what it's all about. What exactly is it that you're thinking about during that time? And it's a waiting to happen right here. So it's like, do you think that everybody would understand what's going on right here? Two people hugging each other or something like that. What is that supposed to mean? And this says as toward it's your syllable for how you want to call it as toward it. This is how you connect, with this. You met this person, and this is what you talked about during that time. You may have met them at the library, and you were talking about something, and you're making plans and reservations, but you were thinking ahead of time, right? And that is why it seems that way, toward it. Maybe a lot of it doesn't really make any sense now, but still, it's like saying is toward it about planning, right? But maybe that's another reason why that maybe they'll say is this toward it. Whenever you do get a greeting card or any sort of invitation, it's supposed to be 2 pages right there explaining. You got one portion right here that includes a picture, maybe a location of the event and all it, and then you got right here's, I guess you say the greeting, the headlines on it, but still, I guess that's like a little shorter version of what about the details about the event, and then we're working out the details, such and such. But and the number of times that I think about this, and I'm like 102, is toward yeah, you dream about having conversations with somebody, but still, what do you think that they're actually thinking about whenever you do write down the details right here? Not everybody can read what you're writing, by the way, so that's why it seems that way. That you want to go and write it down first before you send out the invitation, so that way anybody who's reading it is like, okay, it makes a little bit more sense now since I was able to read the details right down here or something like that. But still, anyway, but that's right there. Talk about for planning invitation, right? Anyway, talk about for planning meetings. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.